I have seen several questions that have been answered. Okay, there's another one. This is for Gloria from Nicholas. For the first site, may I know what is the maximum storage capacity? And for the alternative site, what will be the consideration? That's for you. And I also have a question for the Microbiota Vault. What is needed to develop a local collection, and what criteria should be applied for sample collections for that preservation? So you have two questions from two individuals.
Okay, so I'll start with the second question. So we are trying to standardize protocols, and during the pilot phase, so that, and we will post them in the Earth Microbiome project. So everything, all the protocols that are posted in the Earth Microbiome project, EMP webpage, we are adopting, but we are also developing more, because the way you collect and preserve, you know, foods or feces is not the same as soils or waters. So that's all being developed with expertise of people in the fields. And the second question is about what is needed to create a local collection. So right now, what you need to do is collect multiple samples and just snap freeze. Snap freeze. If you can, in liquid nitrogen or in a freezer. Liquid nitrogen is more reliable in places where electricity fails, but you need to have the supply. Okay. If you're trying to make a local collection and you need help, you can contact us. The second question is about the permanent sites where we plan to keep the backup of those local collections. We still don't have a site, and in view of the war in Europe, the invasion of Ukraine, and the very unstable world that we are having, we are thinking actually to have the redundancy. The idea is to have a big space enough to be able to store tens of thousands of samples. The considerations are we want countries that are far from suffer from wars or natural disasters, destructive or political unrest, but also neutral, that can be trusted by the developing world.
Yeah, that would be, you need a little more time to find that kind of place then.
It's not easy.
It's not easy. There's, I think you have...
Farina, may I just say something? Just adding to what Gloria was saying. To build a local collection, and I've had this experience here in Puerto Rico, and as Maria Gloria said, with all the hurricanes and all this stuff, what is needed to start one? I think you just have, if you have interesting questions that you want to answer that can help your community. For in my case, so cervical cancer is on the rise in Puerto Rico, while everywhere else in the US is going down. So we wondered why. So we started this big collection of samples, but we didn't only collect swabs from the vagina. We also collect saliva, we collect urine, we collect feces, so there's a bunch of different biological samples that eventually could feed obviously into the vault, and could be collaborative with other collections regionally and world level. But my suggestion is just focus on what's important for your community, right? Okay. And there's something
more than for your own studies. Collect more.
Exactly.
Got it.
Use your study as a platform to collect the more samples possible that can serve your communities.
So I think that's also answer Nicholas's questions, right? The maximum storage. It's not the maximum. It's what you need to storage is as much as possible. Okay, and Filipa has answered all of the questions asked for her. And I have a question for Luis. Luis, hang on, where is my question? Does the B. breve subclase have distinct functional characteristic, and what is the driver for the differences? You mentioned that different, because you put it in a general Asian, European. Asian itself is very diverse, right? So it will be difficult to determine the characteristics of the B. breve. But actually, what is the different function of this B. breve in each population? Do you have any insight in it?
In this case, during my MPhil project, I didn't have a specific term to actually look to the specific functionality that differs between plate and plate, but actually I make like a preliminary analysis. In the case for an infants, I have looked at actually only the breve that came from infants and neonate has a lot of sugars related to digestion of sugars related to milk. So actually for me, it makes sense because, well, milk is one of the main part of the diet in the case of infants. And in the case of adults, I found like there are a lot of genes related to digestion of fibers. Now, regarding to your question, yes, Asia, it's actually really includes many countries. In my case, most of my samples, if I'm not wrong, came from China. Yes, and we have to sample more because there are a lot of difference between every country and every country. So in this case, it's really hard to really say, okay, this specific species is more related to the lifestyle of this specific country. We have not reached that point yet, at least not in continents that are not North America or Europe, unfortunately. So one of the main, future steps actually is to increase this collection in order to have the better insight what is specifically going on of this specific species, and then relate this to the host lifestyle that we are actually aiming for. If we actually want to make any personalized treatment. Also, one other thing that was heavily interested is actually looking to specific microbiome from native communities. Actually, there are a lot of studies that actually says that these native communities has a lot of microbiome related to decrease of inflammation episodes, but we're not really sure which species actually are in charge of actually this clinical outcome. So actually, thanks to new technologies for shotgun sequencing and long-read sequencing, we can even reassemble those genomes that were not really hard to cultivate, just to look to the functionality that actually encode this clinical outcome. And then we try to reculture that, and in the future, the ideal future, develop probiotic treatment just to treat that. And actually, there's a whole world that we don't know because that has not sampled yet. So it's actually an exciting time, in order to start this kind of projects. So actually, this initiative is actually ideal for these kind of things.
Thank you, Luis. So there are still lots of questions raised by what you find more results, and then more question is raised. I see here Yuan Kun has turned on his video. Do you have anything to ask, or you want to say something? Yuan Kun, your session, you are still muted. Sorry, you are still muted. Can anybody unmute Yuan Kun? Priska?
And okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, clearly.
Right, great.
So do you want to ask Gloria or Filipa or Luis? No?
Not at the moment. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. And
I have a question for Luis, if I may.
Please.
Luis, beautiful talk. So you study breve. Do you think that the different species of Bifido compete, or they have a synergistic relation? Longum, Bifidum. What is the ecologic relation with breve? Do you know?
Actually, interesting question. And actually, that has been developed by my colleagues some months ago. And we had actually built a network of specifically how the ecological features of breve also contribute to the whole community of microbiome members on infants. So the thing is that breve come first, make sure that it decrease all the oxygen of the environment, and then it helps decrease of other Bifidobacterium, Bifidum longum, etc. And actually Bifidum longum also favors the colonization of other probiotic members. So actually this is a chain. In this case, this come first, and then the other ones come first. So actually it has a really, in this case, healthy relationship, positive relationship between Bifidum. They don't compete at all. Now that is look is that actually as long as on the first moment they appear and they are really dominant when actually we are dealing with the neonate, but then as long as these microbiome start to mature, there are a lot of members that actually appear, and then these members start to decrease according when the patients start to have a more mature microbiome. So actually that's so far at the moment preliminary results that we have looked at. until the moment.
Okay. Any more questions? Filipa has already, you are very diligent, Filipa. You already answered everything written in the chat.
and I know there's a bunch of students that would like to, you know, take a, become microbial ecologists and work with data.
Yeah, and you also share the websites.
Yeah, and even in Puerto Rico, don't think that everybody has a cluster and, you know, cloud access to cloud. No, but people can start, you know, you can log in a lab meeting from anywhere around the world and listen to what people are doing, and eventually you can develop a project with a student that is in Mongolia, as Soninki.
Yeah, Sonia is here. It's interesting.
Yeah,
we will listen to her tomorrow. Okay. Anybody else has any questions? Otherwise, we'll give it back to our MC, Priska. With that, I will close session 1 and we will continue. Priska will give the kind of announcement. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Gloria, Luis, Filipa.
I think on this side of the world, we will go to sleep now. Safarina, good luck.
Okay, so thank you, but it's very late for you. So sleep tight, sweet dreams, and thank you for sparing your time. Bye-bye.
Same here. It's like 3
Good night, Luis.
Oh, dear, Luis. Take a rest. Bye.
Bye. Take care.
Thank you very much to all the honorary speakers and Dr. Safarina Malik for moderating the first session.